What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this past election cycle, of course, it was very chaotic, uh, very um violent, I guess, for lack of a better word, as far as the atmosphere. There were two attempts, at least two attempts on the life of then presidential candidate and former President Donald Trump. One came July 13th, I believe it was, in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a 20-year-old young man, I think his name was Thomas Matthew Crooks, uh, apparently took aim at the former president, and had Trump not turned his head at a very fortuitous moment for him at the time, he may have been successful in his attempt at the president's life, former president's life. Then there was another incident that occurred. I believe this was at Mar-a-Lago on September 15th. I believe it was at Mar-a-Lago, where an older man, I think he was in his late 50s, was attempting to live stream what would have possibly have been a horrible moment in history, but fortuitous once again for Trump. A Secret Service agent spotted the man and foiled his plans. There has also been, of course, rumblings of Iranian uh, Iranian hit squads being in the United States. Supposedly, there have been attempts, or even perhaps future attempts, planned on the president. And we remember him just last week, of course, issuing a warning to Iran that if anything happens to him, he's already given his staff basically a dead man triggers warning that if anything happens to him, they will be obliterated from planet Earth. Although he did dial that threat back a little bit in a couple days afterward. But anyway, we get to the point. According to a new book, the Iranian threat against Trump was much worse than the mainstream media reported. The new book is written by Alex Eisenstadt, and the book is called Revenge, the Inside Story of Trump's Return to Power. And in this book, it is noted that Iran's threat to take out Donald Trump during the 2024 campaign was far more serious than publicly known, and led to extraordinary precautions by his team that included using a decoy plane to avert a feared attempt on his life. In the upcoming book, Revenge, the Inside Story of Trump's Return to Power, the author reveals the depth of U.S. authorities' concerns about an Iranian attack on Trump and how it impacted him. Iran clearly is still on Trump's mind. Of course, I said earlier, last week he said he'd given his team instructions to, quote, obliterate Iran if its operatives were to try to eliminate him. The book talks about how law enforcement officials warned Trump last year that Tehran had placed operatives in the U.S. with access to surface-to-air missiles. Now you have to ask yourself, how did they get access to surface-to-air missiles in the United States? I'm just going to say this. Remember, there have been reports that various military and army sites had weapons that mysteriously disappeared. I'm just saying. Trump's team worried that the Iranians could try to down his easily recognizable personal jet, become better known as Trump Force One, as it was taking off or landing. The concern intensified after a foiled attempt on Trump at his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida on September the 15th. Now, Iran has not been formally linked to that incident or the attempt at Butler, Pennsylvania, 2 months earlier, in which a bullet nicked Trump in the ear. But at one point, soon after the Florida incident, Trump's security detail was concerned enough about the Iran threat that it had Trump travel to an event on a decoy plane owned by Steve Witkoff. He is a Trump friend and real estate executive who's now Trump's envoy to the Middle East. And there's some other scares for Trump's campaign as well. The Secret Service warned campaign leaders after a September 18th rally in Long Island, New York, that they had intelligence that someone might be looking to hit up his motorcade. Uh, don't effing hang out the window and take photos because you're an effing target. La Civita darkly joked to Trump's social media guru Dave Scavino. Wiles reclined her chair, her chair back. I don't know who La Civita is. Is that like some social media personality? I have no idea who that is. During a trip to Pennsylvania next week, Secret Service agents noticed a drone following Trump's motorcade. Officers in one of the cars opened up the moonroof and took it down with an electromagnetic gun, disabling it. Campaign insiders told the author that authored this book that Trump was more worried about the Iran threat than he publicly let on. Trump often had boasted at rallies about his unaliving of that Iranian General Soleimani, but as the Iranian threat intensified, staffers noticed that he talked about it less, and privately he began expressing more concern about the staging of his events. He also worried voters would get, quote, uh, fatigue. I don't want to say the word, but assassination fatigue. Would Americans, he wondered, want to go through 4 years of their president being under constant threat? So, I mean, look, we've always heard that there was a definite threat to Trump out there. And I mean, when you look at the fact that there were two definite attempts on his life, possibly a third, the one that was kind of hushed up in Southern California, I think that came like what, late September. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of activity out there that is threatening to Trump. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be political here. I'm not trying to take a side. It's not an issue that's political. This is a news, uh, in my opinion, a news story that I think is very important. You know what I'm saying? I understand it's a book, whatever. But yeah, man, that just goes to show you the type of forces that are out there. Now, look at people out there people who going to say, well, you know what, I'm not going to go there. You know what I'm saying? This ain't the right video, nor format. All I'm going to say is there are people who may not lose sleep at this video. You know, I understand that. But at the end of the day, he's still the president of the United States. Just like Joe Biden, as much as I despise him, he's still the president of the United States. And I would never wish harm against Joe Biden or anybody that's the president of the United States, because it would have a horrible effect. I'm not even talking about supporters or, you know, I'm not even talking about from a human perspective. You know, of course, I would empathize with the family, but it would have a horrible effect on the security of this country and the ramifications if it ever got out that a foreign government had something to do with the unaliving of an American president. It would be absolutely disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. That's why, you know, Lyndon Johnson, J. Edgar Hoover, the CIA, the federal government, they were very, very quick back in late 1963 to dispel any notion that Cuba or the Soviet Union had anything to do with the unaliving of Kennedy, because that would have been disastrous. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it, man. So what you guys think?